Good morning. Today, I am doing a podcast case study on drug addiction and the effects it has on the family. I have chosen to do this with using a known addict and a USA chart. I am attempting to understand how it is that drug addiction at a time when we're having a pandemic is kind of like, I would say it's like lava, liquid fire that we have going on. And it is really devastating what is happening to our young people in the case of fentanyl. And what's going on? Well, let me just explain. Fentanyl is a synthetic opiate. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of move my camera so that I'm not looking off into space, that it doesn't look like I'm paying attention to my screen, and I actually am. So we have fentanyl, and it's a prescription. It's a synthetic opiate, and it's generally used in a medical setting. And they're illicitly manufactured at this point, synthetic, and very risky to use. It's very typical but to have an overdose with fentanyl, more so than any other drug. And in fact, law enforcement is taught now to be careful what they touch as a result. And in fact, my daughter is a psychologist and has been taught how to avoid touching fentanyl so that she does not have an overdose. Who is at risk for these illicitly manufactured fentanyl and synthetic overdoses? Well, it appears to be our young people. And fentanyl has gotten into every single illicit drug out there at this point. And how is it getting into the drug supply? Well, this is where I'm kind of having some issues. How is this happening? And how common is it? Well, it's extremely common that it is in all of our illicit drug supplies. My sister is a drug and alcohol counselor, and they're seeing fentanyl in every single street drug out there. And it only takes a time or two of usage, and you are then having issues with dope sickness. So there's a lot of effort right now made for harm reduction in this process. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. Let me see, let's get to share screen. And where I'm going to go with this is I have pulled some cards to kind of talk about this reading. Okay, and what are we getting? Well, we're getting the Queen of Cups. Who is the Queen of Cups? That would be me. And I'm here to tell you from this very loving place that I understand that information has been withheld from us. The Queen of Cups typically holds a cup with her hand over the top where she has information. Maybe she's fully aware of what that information means, and maybe she's really not fully aware. I'm going to change my camera position again so I can see the screen comfortably. Anyway, and maybe she's not fully aware. Okay, but in the past, this Queen of Cups has become sensitive and aware of a truth that's affecting the collective. Drug addiction. This is in the past. In the present position, I'm becoming aware of what I think of addiction, what I think of the process, what I think might be some of the things that we need to do moving forward. And really what addiction is it's a process of a person giving up on life, feeling such despair that the only way they're able to cope is to live in a very narrow window of mind-altering substances. Ace of Swords. that leads them to the King of Swords, huge limitations in the future. And how so? Well, addiction leads to medical issues that never get resolved. And in that sense, I've actually heard, if you haven't heard Mate Gabor, please do listen to him about addiction. He's beautiful. He's a beautiful soul. And what he does for people who have addiction is equally beautiful. But what we have here is the King of Swords. In the future, what you have when you have addictions, you have limitations. You have them medically, or you have physical limitations. For instance, you're incarcerated or you're hospitalized for various, it leads nowhere to a good end. So I'm going to go ahead and stop share, and then I'm going to do screen share again. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull up this week's head chart. Oh, wrong person. Let's see. I'm going to go back to stop share. And I'm going to go back to share screen. All right. So here we have a chart. And as you can see, there is no name. And of course, I did this on purpose. And there is no type of I'm not following Placidus, I'm following whole sign, and I'm doing so as a medical chart. The reason I'm doing this as a medical chart is that drug addiction is a medical issue for sure. Okay, and what do we have here? Let's just go ahead and start breaking this chart down. We have in the first house moon at 0 degrees, where it's saying that this person's ability to see, feel, and be receptive to partnership is impaired and affecting their ability to survive. And it's karmic and fated. So you see the 38-minute mark there, which turns out to be an 11, which comes back to being a 2. So going back to that Libran energy, this person struggles in every way to have connection and relationship with others. And do note that we have Saturn sitting right over the top of that in the USA chart. So Saturn Pluto is kind of the reality here in Libra in the first house, where this person's energy is very restricted. Survival is limited, in that whatever choice this person makes, Pluto, in digging in deep and understanding themselves, is very much going to have an impact on what happens in the future. Then notice we go on into the second house of objects. You've got Uranus, where it's 24 degrees about the family, and theft in retrograde, where this person looks for opportunities, digs in deep to take other people's resources and money to use, which is really difficult for those who are impacted by it. Furthermore, go down into the third house in Sagittarius, also retrograde, 22 degrees, a crisis. This is a crisis that's unfolding right now as we speak. This Neptunian 22 degrees is going to roll back over here in the fall of this year for the final time. And there I'm expecting to see that this person very well may experience something in the way of loss of a family member due to addiction. And this is the addict right here. And so what's really interesting is this person in their addiction, and I'm curious about this because if you look, it's also opposite Venus, right? So integration in Venus in Gemini in the 9th house, where this person is not necessarily, I see a feminine energy, and I have an idea who this person might be that's actually going to be in the future injured. And it is a sibling, it's a sister of this particular person in this chart. And really, I hope I'm wrong, but it's as if Spirit's saying, no, we're going to grab hold of this person and let's go up into the 7th house, where we see this, and we're doing this first natal chart so that we have a better understanding, where this person thinks in terms of relationships in ways that are really kind of immature, survival based. And there's a 7 that something conflicting is getting ready to happen. And again, that 10 energy, that 1 or that 0, you know, is it an ending, a completion, or is it a new beginning? Then you go on into, this person has Sun in the 8th house, where you can see an emphasis on the way they see themselves as family in Taurus. And down here in the 2nd house, they see themselves as having a right to dig in and take in unexpected ways what doesn't belong to them, feeling entitled. Okay. Goes on to Venus in the 9th in Gemini. Again, that relationship of 2 people, that exchange, that juggling, and an 8, 2 and 8, which is saying again 10, that completion process. Does this person see this Venus, which I think that this person is seeing me as the Venus, to be honest with you. I live in a foreign place. I've had relationship difficulties with this person for a very long time. And so this is kind of unfolding. And then you get on into Leo, which I'm the Leo in this relationship and groups. And you can see there's a 10 and a 6, that family element, that component, right? And you have up here from the USA chart, Venus. What's happening? 6 and 3, where I am creatively within my ability seeking answers to what I feel is no coincidence. Fentanyl making its way into the group dynamic within our times. Pluto, 22 degrees. And again, like I said, okay, here it is, this Pluto, or excuse me, this Neptune in the USA chart. Here's another example where you've got Virgo square in the 3rd house, so the 12th house, 3rd house, they're squaring 22 degrees. So again, as I say, in the details. So something here is beginning to unfold, and this person has this expansion in the 12th house. Expansion of what? Addiction. Expansion of addiction, where it is now unfolding, and it is going to probably be medical or incarceration, one or the other. Something's getting ready to unfold, or overdose, whatever it is. So you can see Neptune butting right up against 22 degrees, Neptune versus Saturn, 20 degrees in Virgo, where the details and the crisis is unfolding as we speak, where you can see in the 1st house, again, sort of a repeating theme, where 14 degrees Saturn is butting up against Pluto, 19 degrees retrograde. So all kinds of ways this is saying you've kind of run aground. Your survival is now dependent upon your response to your circumstance. You come down here in Capricorn, where we have Pluto transiting in our house of Capricorn, the law, the rules. Again, we got a 10 and a 3, 10 being a completion process, 3 being how she goes about this and wanting to creatively avoid 4th house, a sense of receptiveness to this bitter truth that she's finding herself in. Here you have the moon in Aquarius, where again, we're going to want to go back up here and look at this Leo, where we're talking opposites, right? Where the moon is saying, I'm going to expose within this group what's happening. And then you've got Saturn 25 degrees. That's the actual transit that's happening in addition to that. So, you know, all kinds of ways they're saying there's limitations in her family. There's limitations to her siblings. There very likely is a crisis getting ready to unfold on one of her siblings. Okay. And Neptune over here, again, opposite Neptune in the 12th, impacting Neptune in the 6th. Again, when our charts are telling us something, they're going to repeat the information over and over again. So where is this going? Well, this is saying that her addiction is so serious that it's consequential now. It's massively consequential. And I want to just say one detail about addiction that I'm having a real problem with. I find it really troubling that during a pandemic, COVID, that all of a sudden a pharmaceutical like fentanyl, a complicated pharmaceutical recipe like COVID, or excuse me, like fentanyl, is suddenly available and taking out these young people as if the system itself sees them as trash, and that this is an easy way for them to eliminate that process. Now, I'm going to tell you something that is a truth. It's shocking and it's ugly. During the Vietnam War, we had a similar issue take place. People that were drafted to go into the military, fly over to a foreign country for which they speak not a drop of the language. They get off the plane and they're introduced to drugs. And there are documents that suggest this was done by our CIA. And the reason this might have been done by our CIA is due to the fact that they wanted them to be out of their minds and to not at all connect emotionally with what they were doing. They could be a menace to the people of Vietnam in a state of addiction that there's no way they could be a menace without. So I feel, I'm going to get conspiratorial here, so I give you fair warning, that drugs are used in our culture as a way of eliminating those we find no use for. And I would say that in this case, these people find no use for our youth today in some ways. So with that, I'm going to conclude this podcast. Please do hit the like, share, and subscribe. And if you have a family member or yourself struggling with drug addiction and would like to look at that, to understand yourself a little better, to do something about it, please do contact me. As you know, maybe I can be of assistance and maybe I cannot, but I will certainly put you in touch with people who might be able to assist you if I cannot. So with that, I thank you very much for joining me here today. And please do hit the like, share, and subscribe. Join me. And thank you.